Hello, everyone. I'm Jolie Lash, Deputy Editor here at TheWrap, and we are happy to have you here for our 2022 Emmy Awards screening of RuPaul's Drag Race with executive producers Mandy, Salangsang, and Tom Campbell, and season 14 queens Jasmine, Kennedie, and Kerri, Colby. We're going to be showing you a trailer, and then we will go right into our conversation with the producers and queens. To our audience, please take part in the live chat where you can share your thoughts about Drag Race, tell us where you're tuning in from, and share your thoughts about the show.
Get ready to compete in the biggest drag competition on the planet.
It's gonna be a good show to watch, America. Action! Let me tell you something, you ugly bitch. I need love!
Throw your fists and tips, mother.
Ross is not a top. He's a blouse.
Mercy! We have something to say. I'm about to burst.
This is wrong on so many levels.
Hey, queens. Hi, y'all. I didn't know what my type quite was until you walked out on the runway.
I want that right there, honey. Give it to me in a 4X.
What a dream. I love it.
It is perfect. I want my titties to look like that.
Oh.
You okay?
Oh, shoot.
Surprise! That's how you shock us on a runway.
I feel that Ru expects the world from this group.
I said he'll shake your maracas. Her prudendi is awful.
Okay.
Most of our jokes aren't really landing.
Based on your Snatch Game performances, you are all up for elimination. Bosco. Shantae, you stay.
This is your time. This is your moment. So go smash the whole situation.
He's a bad boy, baby, and I like it that way. Start your engines, You did what you had to do to get here. Now, let the healing begin.
No matter how you argue, ultimately drag is about bonding with your family.
You've proved you're all stars with bright futures. So proud of you.
Welcome back. It's my pleasure to introduce executive producers Mandy, Salangsang, and Tom Campbell, and queens Kerri, Colby, and Jasmine, Kennedie of RuPaul's Drag Race Season 14.
Woo! In the house.
I know. You guys, how does it feel to be back together, even if it is virtually? When was the last time you all four were in a room together?
I know me, Mandy, and Kerri were in a virtual room last week, but Tom I saw at Vegas Live, which he thoroughly reminded me before the reunion.
I think the four of us, though, would probably be at the reunion and finale in Vegas.
The reunion finale.
Season. What a great way to have the season culminate. We were so lucky to be all back together in front of a live audience, able to celebrate the journeys of you all in Vegas. So that was a blast.
Aww. Well, back together, and we have a lot to talk about because RuPaul's Drag Race, the family, got 11 nominations on Emmy nominations day. 11. That's this plus this.
Period.
I know. Mandy and Tom, you guys have to react to that. Tell me what that day was like, because I can't even imagine. 11 is a lot.
Indeed.
I find it deeply humbling. This show was on for 7 or 8 or 9 seasons, something like that, or 8 seasons when it was on Logo, and Logo was incredibly supportive to us, and we had a very special time there because we got to grow and make the show. But every year the show was going to be canceled, or then we're going to be spending that much more money anymore. It was always in danger of not being around, and we never thought about Emmys when we started, far from it. So I feel like Drag Race and Drag Race Untucked, it's like a tree that grows through a crack in the sidewalk. Like, it's just this life force that defies all the odds. And so it's amazing and it's humbling. And, sometimes because there's so much Drag Race, or we get complacent. It's like when marriage equality passes, it's like, oh, check, that's okay, move on. It's like, oh, Drag Race is on, check. It's like, no, it's like we live in times when LGBTQ plus rights, and we're not a heavy show, but just by being visible and creating a platform for our wonderful queens to be visible. I think we're making a difference. So the Emmys, long answer, are just great because it means our peer group are saying, we see you, we support you, and that means the world.
Yeah, Mandy, what was Emmy nomination day like for you? How did you hear about all the nominations? Untucked got a nom. Michelle Visage's What You Packin' got a nomination. She told me she was beeping the horn in her driveway when she learned.
That's so cute. It's just extraordinarily proud, so surreal to be part of something, to come to work and do something that we're also extraordinarily proud of, a labor of love that is so much fun to do. First of all, the work is hard, the hours are long, the challenges are real, but it's extraordinarily rewarding, and again, surreal to have the extraordinary group of people who we all work with from our dedicated and talented crew who come back season after season to this crop of extraordinarily talented and truly selfless queens who give of themselves, who share of themselves, who share their talents, their stories, their struggles, their victories with the world, and to be recognized in such a meaningful way for that hard work is it's really rewarding and inspiring.
Yeah, let's talk about some of the hard work that the queens put into the show before they even get there. Kerri and Jasmine, would love to know, how do you prepare yourself for a show that you know is going to be physically demanding? It's also going to be emotionally demanding. You're kept away from outside influences, right? And you have to end up sort of forging these friendships to rely on folks, and you didn't know them before, probably in most cases.
For me personally, I look at it, number one, anytime that you get to a place like Drag Race or any major goal, it's so much work that goes up to that. You have to manifest yourself there. It really is, in our universe, the Olympics of what we do, who we are, how we present. So there's so much prep, just like for the Olympics. You have to do miniature competitions, all this stuff to prep yourself up. So you got to do a whole lot of preparation. And then the amazing part is, it is the Olympics, but it's also in a weird way like a summer camp. So once you're actually there, you kind of get to let loose, but then you're like, you can let as loose as you want, but just know you're being recorded. So it's really, really fun.
Yeah, definitely preparing for that. I mean, I don't think you can really prepare yourself mentally for what you're about to go through, because I don't think any of us have been put in a predicament like Drag Race where you're competing, every single day, but at the same time, being away from family, but also creating these amazing bonds and, just relationships as you're continuing throughout the competition. And I think the only thing you can truly prepare for are the runways and, what you're going to look like. But other than that, I think, I kind of went in there like, oh, I think I got it. And I really... it throws you in a loop, and it like you can ask as many girls that have been on before you and things like that. And it's just, once you're there, you realize what the Thunderdome of drag is, Drag Race is, and it's a pretty crazy roller coaster, but like an eventful and amazing one, And I think that's what people should prepare for, the roller coaster that it will be to get to the end destination, and it's a great ride. Yeah.
Mandy and Tom, casting is another one of the Emmys you're nominated for this season. You guys took a chance putting in Maddie Morphosis on the show this season. I'd love to know a little bit about, deciding to add her in. Obviously, she is a cis straight queen. That's the first time that's ever happened. And it was a big deal in the community when people heard that was going on the show.
I just love Maddie. I love Maddie's the queen. The real reason she was on the show is because she was a great drag queen with great drag. She also had a very different story to tell, which all the queens do. You don't have to be from some outer planet to have a story to tell. Everyone has, our gathering every season. The queens are what makes the show so unique, and their stories. And our job is to try to create an environment that feels safe for them to tell their stories. And I thought Maddie was... We picked Maddie because, other people have identified as, cisgender straight, and their drag was not up to par. But Maddie's was, and I thought Maddie handled herself so brilliantly throughout the competition, after the competition. I think it challenged people's thinking in a way that's always positive. And I think there was, and from you guys are the sisterhood, but watching the sisterhood, I feel like Maddie was sort of embraced, and we're just always looking for new ways to tell the story of drag when we cast, and we're trying to get a nice group of people that don't necessarily, I don't know, a nice range of people. You think about it, I don't know, like there's, thank God there's so much queer representation on TV, but I don't know if there's one where there's this community of queer people we bring together, and they're not telling stories to straight, they're just telling their story. Anyway, I love Maddie.
Yeah, Mandy, did you want to address that?
What was obvious about Maddie from the very early stages of the casting process was her enormous appreciation, respect, and admiration for the art of drag.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that is so incredible about the reach that Drag Race has, the introduction of, or for people who maybe did not have an understanding of or have access to drag or full appreciation or there's just been this a great opportunity, a platform to share this art with the world, with so many people who are interested, who are moved by it. And I think Maddie is that and was that sort of queen. And I think that came across in her drag. And it was one of the things that was most interesting about her in the casting process, was this real sincere connection and appreciation for it.
Speaking of sincere connection, Kerri and Jasmine, you had a very sincere connection. I am going to just move over into the untucked of it all, because that was such a touching moment. Jasmine, you came out as a transgender woman on Untucked, which is nominated for an Emmy as well. And you did that moment holding the hand of Kerri Colby, who has been an inspiration to you. I would love for you both, Jasmine, we'll start with you, to tell me a little bit about that moment and feeling free enough to say that when cameras were around. And then Kerri, I need sort of your reaction, because you were there with her and you had some really amazing words to say.
Up until that point into that season, I would say I was very comfortable with the camera around me. I will say I was very loose and didn't really have, any, awareness of what was going on, in the sense of like, oh, we're filming a reality TV show. That kind of just went to the back burner, and in that perfect amalgamation of what happened in that Untucked with, TS coming in, as well as, Deja sparking the conversation of transitioning, and people wondering if they were. And I think, up until that point, I really had to fight kind of like, the group, I guess you could say, idea of who I was. And then up until that point, I think people really got a sense of who I was. And that's where I started feeling a little bit more comfortable about talking about it. And I think, with Bosco starting off the conversation, kind of gave me the initial push to be like, I'm not the only one going through this. So I think it was, the perfect spark to, start what came out to be my coming out. And it was really emotional. I mean, I think I was mainly focusing on the people around me and just telling them basically this is how I felt for a long time. I haven't been very communicative about it because of my life and my upbringing. I just don't really want to bring it up. So, it was kind of like a pressure cooker, and I let the steam boil for a little bit too long, and it kind of just exploded. But what came out of that was, finding myself and the ability to let, myself grow. And it was a really emotional but uplifting moment in my life.
Yeah. And Kerri, you were holding her hand and you were telling her that she had the strength that she needed within her. Can you talk a little bit about how, what was going through your head when she was saying that, and she was giving you, some credit as an inspiration, and she wanted to be like you, and that must have been.
It was so emotional. Every time I think about the moment, I'm always taken back to just how powerful that moment was, because beyond a amazing tear-jerking immersion. I can't talk today. I'm so sorry. Besides,
we're still thinking about the emotional moment. We're getting a little.
Yes, I'm tongue-tied. But besides being such a tear-jerking emotional moment, it really was so raw and so real. And for me, I had talked to Jasmine a little bit before about identity when we were off camera. And that's when I was like, okay, like I said, when I walked into the show, I was like, I feel feminine spirits, but you can feel whatever you want. You have to wait on that confirmation of somebody. And as we were talking and going through that, through the whole season, specifically with Jasmine, I had a very family kindred spirit, very big sister, in a way, motherly, daughterly relationship with Jasmine. I always saw so much of myself in her. And I just really appreciated watching her grow throughout the season. So when it came time for, you know, the perfect storm, as you will, and the thresholds were breaking, to me, and I say this every time, it really almost felt like going into a labor and bringing forth a new identity, a new spirit, a new soul, and literally watching somebody in front of you emerge and shed who they are, what their reality is, and how they believe, know, and are now affirming that they want to be treated. And it's so rare that we get to see those moments happen in front of our faces, but even beyond that, to happen in front of the world's face. It was just so emotional and moving. And I was like, Charlotte, let me hold your hand. What can I do? What we need to do? You need some water? Like, you know, like, it was just like, it got the dogs barking. You know what I mean? It really was such a moment that it was like a come together, and beyond what we're there to do, how we're going to win, whatever we want to do about the TV show, these are the real moments that not only make Drag Race what it is, these are the moments that make our stories and our lives as LGBTQ plus people have meaning. It's about how we touch, how we heal, how we communicate, and how we give space for others to grow when they learn more about themselves.
Yeah, and Mandy and Tom being able to, you know, have the platform to share this story. Would love to know what it, you know, how do you work with the network when we're dealing with such an emotional story? I know they're really supportive, and World of Wonder is, you know, Michelle told me, Michelle Visage, that, you know, they're all behind this, and they're all here to help out, you know, with the queer representation. But from a producer side, if you could talk a little bit about that.
To agree with Michelle on one level, yes, absolutely. You know, Viacom, VH1 are partners with World of Wonder in understanding how absolutely critical it is in this time, perhaps more than ever, to be that platform, to be a place where we're being visible, where there's visibility, where these stories are being shared, where these queens who are, to speak a little bit to the competition, immersed in a contest where they're trying very hard, of course, yes, to win the prize, but as such, come together to form a sisterhood, a sorority, being a group of 13 or 14 queens put together in this once of a lifetime experience where they're recognizing similarities in one another and ways to share their stories, their experiences, to strengthen them as individuals, and to help to share a message for anyone watching that you're not alone. You know, that you can see yourselves in these queens who are from all walks of life, but from whom you may glean a certain amount of strength or wisdom or experience that you can use in your own life to make it a little bit better. You know, I don't know if that answers the question, but we always, you know, we try to provide, and that's what's so special about Untucked. You know, obviously the challenge itself is there's a lot happening. There's a mini challenge, there's a maxi challenge. They're very focused on the stakes in that moment, how they're going to prepare for it, how they've been received, you know, by the judges for it. But in Untucked, in that moment of where they can sit together and share amongst one another how they're feeling about each other's performances, and truly just unwind and be themselves. You know, these stories, these very moving stories come to light, and they're so important.
And I'll just echo the support of VH1 and World of Wonder. The thing about it is from RuPaul on down, and the show is RuPaul's idea and RuPaul's vision and RuPaul's ethos. It's a wildly queer staffed show. I don't want to out Mandy, but no, but we're there's a lot of queer people working the show, and with all of our knowledge and all of our good intentions, every year, and this was an exceptional year, we learn from our queens. And Fenton, and Randy, the founders of World of Wonder, but Fenton always says a subject tells you how to tell its story, if that makes any sense. So it's just like, it's, sometimes Untucked is the perfect place where it's like, it really has turned into a documentary as much as possible. It's like, sit there and let people talk. It's no fun. The competition tells the story in a different way. And this is the spoiler alert, don't tell anyone, but eliminations, competition, that's what keeps people watching, because there's some stakes. Our real desire, since day one, has been, I keep saying this, but a safe space, an international platform now for queer people of all different kinds and facets and colors and beauty to tell their stories, good, bad, and ugly. And it always ends up good. But, I've never been I can't imagine. I'm glad that Mandy and I are not on camera during development. We don't fight, but, there's moments. So I love everything that the queens do.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm glad you guys were both able to figure out what my question was in there, because I was just so caught up in the emotions. I phrased it really poorly. But Jasmine, I have to ask you, since that episode aired, I imagine you've got some social media reaction where you found your story has helped other people. Can you talk about that? Because I'd really love to know a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect to get the outrageous the uplifting or outrageous amount of support I got, I will say. I thought, coming up to that episode, okay, people are gonna find out I'm trans, it's gonna be great, but I don't really think, that we've had other stories on the show of women that have came out as trans on the show. So I thought I was just telling a part of my story, but I guess what I didn't realize was that specific moment in a transition hasn't been captured, and I think what that did for so many people was it showed them that I as well have been feeling that way, and my expression of that wasn't wrong, or they can relate is basically what I'm trying to say. And they saw something in that I never really saw that it could touch that many people. I have parents, I have children, I have grandparents, I have, people coming up to me on a daily basis telling me, it's like, you don't understand the lives that you have changed. And every single time I get that comment, each time I take it with, pride, as well as, also with dignity in the fact that this could help people get to a place where they felt comfortable with themselves. I never in a million years thought that just me speaking my truth would have helped so many people. And every single day I get a message. It means the world, and it's touching. And I only, try to do good by that, by, just keep on living my authentic life. Because, if I stopped doing that, then, it was for nothing. The fans did so much for me in that moment that I'm fully appreciative for them, and I will never, stop thanking them. Because before, not a lot of people, not people were the biggest fans of me until they got to realize who I was as a person, coming up on the show. So I think that moment was their aha, and but also their aha to themselves and who they identify as. And it was really a touching moment.
Kerri, I was curious what kind of reactions you got from the show, because on the mothership, you also had some very poignant moments when you were preparing to hit the main stage. You talked about not being able to sing Destiny's Child when you were growing up. And those are stories that people can relate to, who may be growing up in a certain kind of a household that also doesn't allow that. So what have people said to you since all that aired?
Oh my goodness. Well, it's one of those things, I think, growing up the way that I did, I always felt like there was a bigger perspective. There was more out there. I was raised so under a rock, but I never identified with what I was going through. And there's a certain point when you're living that way where you're like, there has to be more people like me. I can't be the only person like this. But then you go and you look around in your current predicament and you're like, okay, well, I said that and I don't see anyone else. And my whole life journey has been that the more that I've gotten out and explored and learned and grown and found myself, the more I realized that not only am I not alone, there are so many people. And I think that with the pandemic happening and so many things happening in the world climatically, I had an idea that there were probably a lot of people that were raised very conservatively and didn't necessarily feel supported growing up, and that kind of affected how they lived and saw their life. I had a feeling that there might be other people out there that were not comfortable with what they saw in the mirror, and they wanted desperately to find a way to get relief and to feel their truth and live that authentically. I had ideas of these things, but they were kind of just beautiful ideas. I didn't have like proof. And when I started to see how many people have been affected and just the ripple effect, and then watching it happen in the ocean, it really does show that we are so connected, and that it really is it's such a small world, and we're all so alike. And even if someone doesn't necessarily relate to me, maybe they had a great upbringing or they never wanted to transition, there's so much in the storyline that I was able to be a part of, and all of it, that there really is such a sense of community between all of us, whether we are from the same place or we are from the same struggle or we are from the same identity. There's so much we all have in common because we're all living, breathing, and working through this thing we call life.
Yeah. Let's make a big transition, and I want to ask our producer.
Big transition.
Oh, that was unintended, but yet very appreciate that. I wanted to ask our producers about some of the on-the-fly stuff you had to do this season, which was so nutty, right? Snatch Game fell apart, which just never happened before like that, and then you had to have the lip sync Lollapalooza. We had a competition night where no one was in the bottom. Mandy, why don't you start telling us about what is it like behind the scenes when that happens? And how do you change on the fly?
Well, we're very verse. No, we adjust well. You know, we love a twist, and we know the fans love a twist, and we love and are inspired by moments that catch us a little unprepared, and those sorts of moments tend to trigger sometimes the most exciting opportunities. You know, what came from a Snatch Game that, you know, where there were some shining moments, maybe not as many as you'd hope for, but as a result, what an amazing next episode, right? Where everybody was able to showcase the quintessential drag skill, the lip sync Lollapalooza that came as a result of that, where the stakes had never been higher, yet everyone had an opportunity to really show the world what they can do as a drag queen performer on the main stage to a pop song. And boy, what a special episode that was. You know, there have been times over the years where we are required to change correction or you move nimbly, you know, to modify certain pieces of a challenge and as a result, like I said, the happy accidents along the way. And I think this is an example of that.
Yeah. How was it for you, Tom?
I think more than anything, even though we're producing the show, we're fans of the show. We're fans of the queen. We love every minute of it. When the lip syncs happen, just in general, everyone's ripped their headsets off. Everyone's just like rooting and screaming, if you could hear outside. And it is a labor of love, as Mandy said. So when something happens, and it's going to happen, listen, we're producers, right? We want like A to B to C to D. You want it very, you know, all together and let the drama happen. every time something's quote unquote gone wrong or not as planned, something better has happened as a result of it. And again, it goes to the industry of our queens, really, because they're like, that lip sync SmackDown was amazing. We threw in the chocolate bar and no one picked, it was all a secret. It was just, there were so many. And listen, we try to mix it up but still have integrity of the show, integrity of the queens. But it is, it's the Olympics, as they say. And I think the audience I think the queens, when it's not their season, they love it too.
I don't know. I mean, it was a pretty fun episode. But it was cute. It was cute.
You were amazing on it.
Yeah. Our queens are so, if I may just for a moment, because I am season after season just absolutely blown away by the level of talent that these performers put on display for us in every single episode. We shoot most of these episodes in 2 days. Mm-hmm. So over the course of 2 days, they may be tasked with creating some sort of designer outfit. And then the next 2 days, they've got to be, celebrity impersonators. And then the next 2 days, they've got to be actors and actresses or do stand-up comedy, or they've got to be talk show hosts. I mean, we just put them to it, and they always deliver so much more than we could ever imagine that they do. And there's such professionals all the while dealing with some of these moving storylines like you've talked about, as when humanity kicks in. But they're going through a lot, and they just are so proud. They're so inspiring, really. I mean that with every word, with every bit of my heart. It's like they're inspiring. We learn something new from them every year. They always outdo themselves. So it's a joy and a pleasure to work every season on it.
Kerri, how did you power through, these days? I mean, you've had to lip sync on the show and just, getting through some of this stuff. My gosh.
I would say, I mean, like Jasmine said, it's so important to kind of get a little support and feedback from your alumni, because they are people who have gone through it and dealt with it. And for me personally, I call her my spiritual, my personal, my chosen family auntie, Miss Kylie Sonique Love. She really gave me a blueprint on self-care. And I think that that's so important in life in general. I always say my best friend is therapy, and I love to refer her to you because it really is the only way a lot of times you can get through things that there's not a right or wrong answer. There's not a, eat an apple and your day is going to be better. There's not drink water and everything is going to fix itself. Sometimes you have to talk through things and just let it all out. And the self-care is so important, and meditating, and just when you're in your hotel room, we are solidated. We are by ourselves. And I feel like for what I did, I took a lot of time to rest and meditate and amp myself up and walk myself through things and just like be one with me. And that was how I felt like I was able to get through it. I didn't fall apart necessarily, at least on camera. And I feel like one of the reasons that I was able to avoid just collapsing and falling apart at times, that it was tough, is because I was able to really tap into my self-care.
Yeah. What about you, Jasmine? Because I think you might have had more lip syncs than anyone this season.
I think Georges beats me by one, maybe. But
it looked exhausting.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of taking care of yourself, going through like the daunting days, I mean, I wouldn't say I did a lot other than like Red Bulls and like some insurers. Those are always like a benefit. But also too, like when Kerri said we were at home, I brought a lot of DVDs and a DVD player. I brought a lot of photos of family members, so I could tape them around my room, because like you do have to kind of create, yourself like a mini home while you're away, but also you want to feel that like you're comfortable and you have things around you that, make you feel normal. Also, just like reading books and things like that was really a way to get my mind off of what I was doing in the moment. I brought all 4 of the Hunger Games books and read them all like twice, just because we were in the Hunger Games draft. So we just swap it over to like playtime, and like we're just like, cute. This is like, what I'm going through mentally. But also, taking those days to rest and nap and to like know when you've reached your limit while you're going through these really long days is a benefit. It's like, hey, I need to take 15 minutes just to like relax and like calm myself down, you know, while we have some off time, and like not being a part of a group setting is also really beneficial, you know, because it helps you get centered.
Tom, can you speak about how Emmy-nominated host RuPaul gets through the season, having, you know, worked with Ru for so many years? Because, I mean, almost, you know, in the workroom, judging, hosting, you know, being there to direct some of the challenges like the soap opera one.
I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. No, I'll be happy to tell you. I mean, he, you know, I think the reason he's been recognized so many times by the Academy is he has an immersive job compared to other hosts. He sets things up. There's business he has to do. Then he really does mentor the queens through the walkthroughs. He, you know, one day he's out of drag, quote unquote, you know, he's in boy drag, and the next day he's in Glamazon drag, and that's a transformation. And he has rituals. He talks about them backstage. He always, when he's not on camera, he always has music playing. RuPaul has the most amazing music library in the world, and so he's filled with that. And all of Drag Race, we try, you know, to surround ourselves. A lot of us have been doing it for many, many, many years, and so it's a family of itself, you know, in mirror of the queens in a weird way, and we just take care of each other. I get to go with Ru to the UK and to Down Under, and it's a much smaller group, and we're scrappy and we get things done, but we laugh every day, you know, and we just have so much fun, and we enjoy what we're doing. Ru says that, and I can quote him. He's just like, the hardest thing or the most challenging thing is to have a reason to get up in the morning, and he is so invested in the show, in the queens, even in his look. I have to say, he's styling like a cover of Vogue every 2 days, and it's just but he loves it. You know, I mean, he loves it, and he's in there in the, you know, doing everything to get himself to look beautiful. And he, you know, the advice, I'm still amazed after all this time, the advice he gives people, because some of it's true, but he so connects with the queens, and we're Mandy connects with you guys. A lot of the senior management, we have a safe space between the queens and the production, but Ru is the one who's right there, and you guys get his energy, he gets your energy. It's a beautiful thing to witness. I don't know what it's like in the room, but I know what it's like to watch raw and edited, and it's always inspiring to me. We're
gonna find out what it's like in the room, because Jasmine's gonna tell us.
Well,
back me up, Jasmine.
Well, going into the room, when you're, you know, working with Ru, it really is a great, you know, experience, because you as a queen have always wanted to get on the show, and you've always wanted to see, you know, the kind of the wizard behind the, you know, the curtain, like Oz, and it really was a great sense of feeling and things like that to be, you know, in the presence of someone who started, you know, this drag empire, you know, that is Drag Race. And to see their work ethic, you know, when it comes to, you know, a production and how it's supposed to be done, but also, like, perfect example, RuPaul was directing us for Daytona Wins. That was like probably like the most I've learned out of, you know, majority of, you know, anything on that show. For me personally, was because I'm not an actor. I don't really, you know these things, but watching her direct and see what she wanted you to pull out of the scene was a really good sense of seeing, like, her commitment, her drive to see this show and us girls, like, succeed in our future. So it was a really good, you know, sense of feeling to watch, you know, the idol that is RuPaul do her thing.
Mandy, Jasmine brought up the soap opera, which had some wind sounds. Whose idea was that? How did that come about?
It was 100% RuPaul. I just because he had sent an email off season, Daytona Wind, warring Drag Race families, and then he put some clips in just that explained. And I had read it, but it was off season, so I didn't pay attention. And he said, you know, what about that thing when we're in production? I'm like, he goes, read the email, bitch, kind of thing. And we did, and it was hilarious. And he helped write that. He you know, produced it when we would reveal, you know, we added fart sounds. What's wrong with that? I mean, it was so silly, and he's so committed to it. You know, it's like, it's a joke that maybe went too far, and that's what drag's all about.
Mandy, tell me about bringing in and choosing some of the guest stars that came on this season. You had some heavy hitters. I mean, Taraji P. Henson came down. So Lizzo came down. Alicia Keys was through the window.
Right. Well, you know, we just are, we're so lucky once again that the show reaches so many people, and we're lucky enough to at this point be having celebrities who are fans in their own right, and who reach out to us often, or who, when are reached out to by us, are like, absolutely, you kidding? I'm there. They come, they know the show, they know the language of the show, they know the aesthetic, they know the vibe, they want to go into Untucked and spend more time with the queens. They're so invested. We feel so lucky and really appreciate having them spend the day with us, because they bring something special to each and every episode. And I think it's really helpful and moving for the queens to see them and to hear feedback from them, and to walk the runway or lip sync for them, sometimes to one of their own songs. Yeah, each season, I mean, we've been blessed throughout many seasons to have some heavy hitters, to use your words, but you know, the most inspiring thing is when you know what fans they are of it, you know, and to see that cut through in the episodes is really a lot of fun.
Yeah, Kerri and Jasmine, did you feel the love from the guests that came in? Of course, the regular judges love you all so much, but you know, when there is a real admiration when they come in, I think, some of the guest judges, right?
100%. One of my, well, now everyone's gonna know my secrets, but one of my favorite things to do when I was walking on the runways is I'd walk down and I have my little walk or whatever, but I'd always love to look at the guest judge, because it's so like a roller coaster moment when you look at them and make eye contact, because they're, you know, they haven't seen you, they haven't been watching you week to week at that point. So to see their raw reaction of like you presenting yourself to them, it was my favorite thing to do. And I think that some of my favorite memories came from when I would look at them to see what their reaction was. They'd be like, oh my God, or like, it'd be so much fun. And it really kind of brought that whole thing full circle back, where it's like, we are a part of such a huge, amazing, you know, network of people that are all here to support, and we all want to have fun, enjoy, learn, love, and laugh. And it was really fun for that.
Yeah, what was it like for you, Jasmine, with the celebs coming in?
It was a great experience, you know. I have like two probably that stick out the most with me. One would have to be when Taraji P. Henson came. That was the episode where me and Mandy did, you know, have a little kerfluffle, and I went to the bathroom. She saw me crying, and she just like came over and like actually like talked to me. Was like, "Are you okay?" Things like that, and she like really made me feel like a normal person, and like I was on her level. I was like almost like crying even more, because like she literally was talking to me. I was like, oh my God, you have no idea how much this means to me, because like I've looked up to Taraji P. Henson for years, you know, from any Tyler Perry movie she's been a part of, to also her own things on Empire, to everything. You know, she is a woman in her own, you know, she stands her own lane, and I always have appreciated, you know, what she's done and been a voice for. And it was a really touching moment I've had with her. And then Dove Cameron solidifying that it's A-okay to be delusional. Yeah.
That is a brilliant answer. Moving another hard left, Kerri, I need to ask you about the J-Lo dress moment, which is iconic from this season. You just walking out there, and I think it was the J-Lo Grammy dress, right? Was the Grammy dress or was the Oscars dress? Well,
it was the reunion revival that she wore for Versace when they did their 2020 like revamp of the Jungle series from 2000.
Yeah, tell us about that moment, because it feels iconic. It feels iconic.
Oh my gosh.
It's you. It's iconic.
Feels iconic. It felt iconic on me.
Everyone stayed in a 6-foot square of her. No one touched her. Go ahead.
That's the dress.
I literally, I mean, modeling and doing things where I can wear beautiful gowns and feel my most elevated. It's always been a dream of mine. And with the opportunity of Drag Race and having some family members in my house that I know have beautiful things, we had to pick what look we wanted. Yeah. And you had to like put a bid in for it. And when I went to like, oh, I would like this dress, they're like, oh, sorry, it's already taken by somebody. And I was like, what? Like, I actually have it. And they literally let me know, like, by the end of that day, they're like, okay, so whoever the person, because they don't tell you who's in it first, but like the person who was holding that look pulled out, were you still interested? I was like, yes. And from that, like getting the ability to wear it and just like strut my stuff down the runway, it was so amazing. And it's sparked so many opportunities where I have been able to hold my own in the fashion world. And it's just been a dream come true. Thank you, Versace. Thank you, J-Lo. It's the Leo energy, honey.
And to confirm who that queen was that canceled, that would be me. My drag mother said this to me, and I quote, "I love you, but you do not have the body for the outfit." So it was like, you know what, you're right. And I went with a beautiful, my most expensive outfit on the runway, so I can't complain.
Yeah, you do now, daughter. You do now.
Yeah, do now. So now I'll borrow it. I'll come to upstairs 2 floors and I'll come borrow it.
I'll let August know
that is awesome. So we're gonna have to wrap up, but I want to ask all of you what you took away from season 14, which was just so impactful. I think. You know, every season you're just like, oh, this is the best season. This is the best season. But let's start with you, Kerri. You know, because you were a participant, you were a contestant.
Absolutely. I mean, Drag Race, and I've said this on the show, I've said it so many times, is something that quite literally saved my life. Going through my whole life story, it was Drag Race that literally gave me a safe space, something to relate to, something to understand, and something to kind of inspire me. I was really depressed. And at that time, when I was 15, I was like, oh my God, there's something out there that I can work towards and want to be on. And hopefully, you know these people that I'm in love with, and being able to do it and then realize that there's just so much in this world that not only do we get to learn, find, and have access to, but once we get that, there's so much we get as people to kind of hand back and be a blessing to others and be that person that you always wanted to see. So the whole full circle moment of Drag Race, it truly is life-changing, from the viewer to the contestant to the judge to the executive production side. It's just so amazing and beautiful.
How about you, Jasmine?
I think the biggest takeaway, from season 14, and what I would, culminate it as is a real project of love and also, community. I think this season there has been so many queens that were so passionate about their drag, but also the ability to connect with one another and find each other's similarities. And I think, yes, it is a competition, but at the same time, we are each other's backbones while going through this competition. And I think we really stuck true to that and really wanted to show the world that we can be in a competitive, environment, but also talk about key things in the community that, aren't always talked about, but also, pushing forward, what is acceptable in the community, with having, a straight contestant on the show to having 5 trans queens on the show. There's so much more to what drag is than just, gender and who you identify as. And I think this season kind of opened up that umbrella to know that, Drag Race is for everyone. And it's, it's a way to learn, but also to find your true self with going through it.
Tom?
I would say all those things. And this was a cast of superstars. We always have great queens. Sometimes they grow and flourish after the show and they come back. Every one of the queens from this season is a superstar. Dealing with them, watching them on the show, dealing with them in panels like this, any one of them could come here and speak to this. Everyone's articulate. And I have to imagine that they lifted each other up. That community thing also showed in their performance and their ability to share their stories, and a cast of superstars this year, truly.
Yeah, Mandy, you want to close us out with your takeaways?
I think for me, it's just, reflecting on where we were in the world at the time, coming out of a couple of years of real uncertainty, of shock and disappointment and frustration, and still being in that moment, but working daily with such ferocity of human spirit, such bravery, such resilience, such a desire to laugh through challenges, through times that made you sad, but to feel and to find strength through laughter, through light, through love, to be beacons of light that these queens are. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. For all people who feel on the fringe at times, who feel underappreciated, unseen, to provide a visibility and a platform and strength and someone to look up to and to admire and to laugh with and feel love from. Not to, that's what I look back on. I mean, these have been some challenging years, and these queens, they never disappoint. They always just come with this ferocity, this super heroism. To me, they inspire me, and I know everybody on the crew and the whole world, really. That's what I take away from this group in particular.
My heart is full hearing you say that. You all, it's been an honor to speak to you today on this panel. Thank you so much, and good luck at the Emmys.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. So great to see you.
Thank you for joining us today. Be the first to know about upcoming Wrap screenings and get access to exclusive content and premium events by becoming a Wrap Pro member. Join now to take advantage of a free trial. For all screening information, including past screenings you may have missed, they're very good, I promise you. Please visit TheWrap with a W.com. Click on the events tab in the main nav bar. Thank you.